Sheriff Todd Baxter, employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. District Attorney Brian P. Green, employees of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. Judge Alex Renzi, New York State Supreme Court. Paul C. Message, James Young Jr. in Pennsylvania Court. $140,000 public defender Julie Sianka. My name is Chris Chichester. I live in Rochester, New York. This is the Freedom of Information Law, dated this Sunday, August 23rd, 2026. There were 6 in here. 6. It's real simple to achieve compliance because you have this information. The number you're going to comply with, as I point to you with the official finger of Brooklyn, New York, is 0 because you're unethical. That's why. There are other descriptions for you at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Monroe County District Attorney's Office, Pennsylvania Court, New York State Supreme Court, and Public Defender. Unethical is one of them. It's perhaps one of the strongest words to use, and it's simplicity. When I appear in a court, when I'm forced into court because of criminal charges that are all lies, every single criminal charge for me is a lie. When I'm forced into court, Pennsylvania Court, New York State Supreme Court, there was a prosecutor there assigned to my appearance. And who is it? Tell me who it is. Perry Duckles. You have this information in an electronic file or paper file. Julie Sianka. You have this information in an electronic file or paper file. So Perry Duckles and Julie Sianka, who is it, supported by taxpayer dollars, that has violated my civil and constitutional rights by delivering me to jail 6 times at Monroe County Jail in Rochester, New York, and Livingston County Jail in Geneseo, New York? And what the fuck am I doing in Geneseo, New York, Sheriff Todd Baxter? I'm told by the Livingston County employees, that is sheriff's employees, that work for Sheriff Thomas Doherty, that my safety is at risk at Monroe County Jail and not from the inmates because of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees. That's why I'm driven to Livingston County when I have lived in Monroe County since 2012. Lunatic fringe. 0. Oh, if you hear a siren going by, because I'm on here 2 minutes and 40 seconds now, that's the freak show of Rochester, New York, with this AMR, American Medical Response racket, the Rochester Fire Department, the Rochester Police Department. It wouldn't be you, Sheriff Todd Baxter. You're never in Rochester, New York. You're the Sheriff of Monroe County minus Rochester, New York. Have you noticed me posting to Nikki Rudd's Facebook page and other Facebook pages? Because every time I ridicule you as the Sheriff of Monroe County minus Rochester, New York. That's not an exaggeration. You, Sheriff Todd Baxter, are never in Rochester, New York. Never. The police Rochester, New York. Your stooge employees are over there checking bags at 99 Exchange in New York State Supreme Court. A joke. When I would go to work at the Russell Center Office Building and the House Rayburn Building, civilians do this work. This is 20 plus years ago, but civilians were doing it. It's not the Washington, D.C. police or Capitol Police because it's 2 different police forces. How is that police work, Sheriff Todd Baxter? If you cared, you Benito Mussolini skinhead, stooge, and degenerate, about crime in Rochester, New York, and in Monroe County, you would talk to Alex Renzi, the other judges over there, and say, hire your own security, we'll give you time, and we're going to put these Monroe County Sheriff Office employees in vehicles and on the street where they belong. Because you put your old men over there that are overweight. That's a reason why. Sheriff Todd Baxter. So, 4 minutes. August 23rd, 2023, Sunday. Unethical is going to be the response from you. Freedom of Information Law. Documentation for the case of Christopher Charges for John P. Lenzer Jr. in Pennsylvania Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? District Attorney Brian P. Green. You have this information. Perry Duckles and Julie Sianka. Send it to me. Freedom of Information Law, dated August 23rd, 2026. Documentation for the case of Christopher Charges for Paul C. Lenzer, Pennsylvania Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? District Attorney Brian P. Green. You have this information. Perry Duckles and Julie Sianka. Send it to me. Freedom of Information Law, dated August 23, 2026. Documentation for the case of charges of Alex Renzi, United States Supreme Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? District Attorney Brian P. Green. You have this information. Perry Douglas and Julie Sianka. Send it to me. Freedom of Information Law, dated this August 23rd, 2026. Information about the grand jury convened by District Attorney Sandra Doyle to Todd and Christopher Chichester. That is, 1, the day, month, and year the grand jury is convened. 2, the assigned District Attorney's office employed to address the grand jury. 3, the witnesses that testified to the grand jury. 4, the vote of the grand jurors. 5, a transcript of the grand jury proceeding. District Attorney Brian P. Green, is it your standard practice to call a grand jury to assemble where the grand jury is impaneled, and then the target of the grand jury, subject to indictment, is not called to testify, is not interviewed by anybody at the District Attorney's office, including yourself, Brian P. Green? Now, this was under former District Attorney Sandra Doyle. Why is she not in office anymore, District Attorney Brian P. Green? So that answers itself. But what is the practice of the District Attorney's office? And I'm not just asking this rhetorically, and perhaps nobody's watching me, but this language, if you're watching me at the District Attorney's office, will arrive where I'm going to ask you, District Attorney Brian P. Green, is it your standard practice to have no communication whatsoever, either with targeted grand jury in the witness box when the grand jury is in session, or talking to the target of the grand jury before the grand jury is in session? Is that the policy of the Monmouth County District Attorney's office or not, District Attorney Brian P. Green? You love violence, Sheriff Todd Baxter. You are the sheriff of violence. I've talked about this freak cop, Richard Seidman, July 15, 2023, July 15, 2024, July 15, 2025, July 15, 2026. When I acquire the payroll again, I'm going to go right for his name. And he's not going to be paid $75,904. It's going to be $85,000 or $90,000. I wouldn't even be surprised if he's one of Todd Baxter's $50 plus $100,000 cops. Send me this money. You owe this money to me, Sheriff Todd Baxter, which is $61.39, because Richard Seidman stalked me into the public library. I stood up at the computer terminal. He ran at me, slammed me in the head. I fell down. My head hit the ceramic tile floor of the library, put the handcuffs on me, marched me down to the public defender's office. There's where $28,000 bald-headed widow Paul C. Metz was waiting for me. This is where I meet my public defender, Julie Sianka, where you know I'm supposed to be in Penn Court, but I don't. The public defender is just a window dressing to say that I was providing counsel. This is the corruption of this little room, this disgusting, vile star chamber that you love, District Attorney Brian P. Green and attorneys of the Monmouth County District Attorney's Office, because you know that this bald-headed widow, $28,000 Paul C. Metz, or the other psychopath, $34,000 James P. Mullins, just a rubber stamp that's just going to pronounce someone guilty, and that's the way you want it. Where there is no due process, there is no civil and constitutional rights. Freedom of Information Law. The issuance dated this August 23rd, 2026. The issuance of a new check to Christopher Chichester as blow for an expired check in the amount of $61.39 for the County Monroe Office of Sheriff and May Fund account, because that's the dollar amount in the pocket of Chichester when he's filing tax and pen for public library by $75 for which is seated of the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office. So the last one you have this information, Paul C. Metzer. Does the name Daniel Glass III ring a bell in that bald head, Paul C. Metzer? Because it does. Because he's an accused pedophile or accused child rapist in Penn, New York, and John P. Lomenzo Jr. knows him. And he has not recused himself from the appearance of Daniel Glass III in Penn Court. And he cited defective documents for either dismissing the charges or releasing him or both. I do not know what the disposition of the case was for Daniel Glass III. But the defective documents, this language, quote, defective documents, end quote, is in the Democrat and Chronicle story. And I demand, I'm not asking, to examine these defective documents. Paul C. Metz and James P. Jr., you will refuse because you're corrupt, because you're unethical. Freedom of Information Law dated August 23rd, 2026. Quote, the defective documents for the case of Daniel Glass III and Penn Court for John P. Lomenzo Jr. The quote, defective documents, end quote, for the case of Daniel Glass III and Penn Court, send it to me. There is an Office of Court Administration in Albany, New York. There are regulatory bodies over you at Penn Court. It's not just the Office of Court Administration. I'm in the process of finding out who has regulatory control and power. Does it concern you, Mr. District Attorney Brian P. Green and Perry Duckles and Megan Hausner and Michael Harrigan and Michelle Crowley? That's this vile little room in Penn Court. There's no appellate jurisdiction. Since I'm not an attorney, and I always state that before I have an opinion about the law, since there is no appellate jurisdiction over Penn Court, is that correct? I believe there's no appellate jurisdiction over Penn Court, which I don't know if I'm correct or not, because I'm not an attorney, but you certainly know. If this bald-headed widow, Paul C. Metzler, at $28,000 in Penn Court, or the other psychopath, $34,000, James Smiley Jr., decides somebody's going to do a county year, do 12 months. Is there no appeal process? And this one judge in this one little room, which is at the end of the hallway from the library entrance, the Penfield Public Library, is that just the way it is? That there is no appeal rights whatsoever? And I don't know the answer. Because if one judge in a little town of Penfield, New York, of 36,000, can deliver a citizen of Penfield, New York, to the monstrosity of Monroe County Jail or another jail for 12 months, when a prosecutor doesn't talk in court and that defendant doesn't have legal counsel, how is that possibly constitutional? And then since there is no appellate jurisdiction, I don't know, I could be incorrect. Hypothetically, if there's no appellate jurisdiction and Paul C. Metzler in Penfield Court, James Smiley Jr. in Penfield Court, sends the defendant to 12 months, is that 12 months going to be time served for 12 months? Or is there some type of appellate jurisdiction where the defendant who is now in jail can appeal to and then subsequently be released? I don't know. But you certainly do know attorneys at the district attorney's office. And you certainly know District Attorney Brian P. Green. You know what you can do with District Attorney Brian P. Green if you are interested in justice? Go to Penfield Town Court and sit down in that little room and watch what happens. And then you can have an informed opinion. And I highly recommend that you should do what I'm recommending, Mr. District Attorney, because if you have friends and family members in Penfield, New York, Mr. District Attorney, they're going to be subject to this vile, disgusting little room. And you should know what happens inside, and perhaps you do, but I did not know your name, Mr. District Attorney, after former District Attorney Sandra Dory left, because I don't recall it from being on the payroll. Because I've been reading your payroll on YouTube for 2, 3, 4 years before she resigned in disgrace. So you employees can also do what I'm saying, but I think you've already been in that room. Certainly you have Perry Douglas, right? Certainly you have Michelle Crowley, right? Certainly you have Michael Harrigan, right? Or not? I have the arrogance I'm right about everything because I am right now guessing. So if you're sending defendants into this room where you don't have to talk, and the defendant doesn't have legal counsel, because that's what happened to me, and then that defendant is sentenced to a year in jail or 6 months in jail, what is the recourse for that defendant to be free? If, in fact, that defendant is innocent. And what has happened to that defendant is what's happened to me with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, where every single charge is a lie. Every single one. That's why there are so many. Before I'm 50, I had a speeding ticket where I live in Albany, New York, a speeding ticket where I lived in Washington, D.C. Since I worked on Capitol Hill and I worked for the New York State Legislature, I had friends that could help me with this. And when I went to court, they were dismissed. After I'm 50, I'm 61 now, I'm in jail 6 times because it's a psychopath and freak at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, a psychopath and freak at Penfield Town Court, New York State Supreme Court, and an invisible psychopath and freak at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. So, you have it. I'm on here 13 minutes. I don't know if you watch me. I'll never know. Antonio Spano locked the doors and locked me out. I was born at Booth Memorial Hospital in Queens, New York on July 4, 1965, when Lyndon B. Johnson was in New York City. So I had to get my birth certificate again. I had a birth certificate that was black and white that was torn because I'd had it since I was born, and I had it in my possession since I was in the Army in 17 Cavalry 101st Airborne Division because I had to take my documents with me when I left for basic training on August 28, 1985 to go to John F. Kennedy Airport in New York City and fly away. I had to have certain ID, and I took my birth certificate with me. I don't have this anymore because of 2 people, Antonio Spano and Laura Rowley. So when I was in Farmington, New York, at another shelter, that's Eagle Star, I was getting a new birth certificate, which I acquired because Lily, who's the employee there, helped me. Just like I had to get a new Board of Elections card. Just had to get a new driver ID, non-driver ID card. I have not driven a car since I worked in Washington, D.C. 20 years ago because you take the metro everywhere. And I had a car, which I gave to my sister. I don't tell you any of this for narcissism. But I have in my hand the non-driver ID, the voter ID card, and my birth certificate. All I had to get because Sheriff Todd Baxter's Jonestown, Monroe County Sheriff's Office. smashing me into a million little pieces. You know how he's smashing me into a million little pieces? Employees of the district attorney's office, employees of the sheriff's office, Town Court, New York State Supreme Court. He'll lie about this because it's easy to lie about this one. Fanaticism. I'm going to state fanaticism, extremism, and hatred. And Todd Baxter, even though he's a corrupt, sick freak, knows that this is fanaticism, and he could say, I'd never do something as ridiculous and insane as that this citizen's saying, when he is exactly ridiculous and insane. January 16, 2023. Todd K. Baxter, Sheriff 137 Plymouth Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14614. This photograph's why you're fanatic. This photograph's why you're extreme. This is photograph why you're a liar. This photograph is why I know the name you're $67,000 disgusting ass Shanamar. This photograph's why people hate the police. This is in the documentation I sent here. That's the black and white photo. I'm going to read some of this. That's sent him on May 11, 2026. He's also received a color photo, and here it is right there. I'm on his camera. Sheriff Todd Baxter, is this private technology you affixed to a building at 2025 Penfield Road where Elliot Roth is the president of a business called Consumer Insights? Or did you buy it and affix it for me? Because Christina Harper of the Public Defender's Office sent me the links, and I watched myself on it. Sheriff Todd Baxter, can you see me pointing to your camera, also called a surveillance device? I hate to use that term, but it's an accurate term, where I had been on this device. Because Christina Harper, the public defender, sent it to me. I repeat myself because corruption requires repetition. Is this private technology owned by Consumer Insights at 2025 Penfield Road? Or did you buy it and affix it for me? Lunatic Fringe. So, in this documentation, where the black and white photo was there, Todd Baxter, Brian P. Green, this is extremism, May 11th. Well, if you, Mr. District Attorney, read this over and over, I'm telling you, to disclose the names of my prosecutors. I'm not going to read every document in here. The first one here is for Perry Duckles and Mark Monahan. Are you literate, Perry Duckles? Do you not know how to read? Do you not know how to understand the English language? Right here. Mail the names of your corrupt prosecutor sons that have violated my civil and constitutional rights. The address listed in below in Farmington, New York. How am I just 6 times at Monroe County Jail in Rochester, New York, Livingston County Jail in Genesee, New York, when a prosecutor refuses to talk in court? It's because of sickness and hatred and fanaticism. That's why. Just see, here's your name right here, Mr. District Attorney. On May 11th, June, July, 3 months later. Is your intention to never tell me the names of my prosecutor's sons? Is that what it is at the District Attorney's office? Go with that fanaticism sickness. Please. I'll come on here for another year, 2 years, however long I'm going to be here in Rochester, New York, Monroe County, use the freedom of information on every time demanding that you're refusing to disclose the names of these freaking psychopaths. Then when you're up for re-election, I'm going to come to your news conferences or your public events and stand right next to you and remind you that you're refusing to send this information to me. So, right there, Perry Duckles, do you not know that you're subject to disciplinary committees when I send him that too? I've not contacted any disciplinary committee yet about anybody at the district attorney's office or the public defender's office, but I will. And I'm certainly going to contact disciplinary committees about this Nayraj Shah, Penn, New York. I would not be surprised if he just calls himself an attorney and he's not one. So, April 6, 2023, corruption of fanaticism, Penn Court, $28,000 policy Metzer. First line. This has arrived overnight. This has arrived 100 times since 2023. Mail the names of my prosecutor, the address is below in Rochester. Read the 6 attached PDF documentation, resign. Did you not understand that language on May 11th, Mr. District Attorney? So, what's the problem in Jonestown? The problem is you drank the Kool-Aid. It's not my prosecutor's silence, but this is what I'm demanding. Again, if there's what's commonly called sexual harassment, where I don't use that language in the foil. Mail the names of my prosecutor, the address is below in Rochester. Read the 6 attached PDF document and answer me about sexual harassment in his office, resign. So on these two here, I'm just telling you without using the Freedom of Information Law. I don't think I use it on this April 10, 2025. Mail the names of my prosecutor, that should be good enough. Then I'm using the foil again here with Title 7 of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. What's the answer to sexual harassment? Sheriff Todd Baxter, because there it is right there on April 10, 2025. He just ignores the law because he's corrupt. That's why. Because he's unethical. Here it is about sexual harassment at the district attorney's office. You know why Brian P. Green ignores the law? Employees of the district attorney's office. Well, I'm demanding to know if he's in compliance with Title 7 of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Because he's corrupt. Because he's unethical. So, here it is, sexual harassment, April 10, 2023, 3 years ago. Can you see sexual harassment right there? You can. Are you blind? Do you not understand the truth of life? Do you not understand the truth of the law about sexual harassment? What's commonly called sexual harassment, which I've talked about that over and over and defined it for you freaks and psychopaths and degenerates at the sheriff's office and district attorney's office. July 28, 2025. 1 year ago, on July 28, 2024, I wrote to you 1 year ago. I described the sick, lawless behavior, perjurer, 73312 Michael Houlihan, the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office on YouTube. You ignore my language, you attach your complaint. Why is perjury a crime? Refuse to prosecute, resign, freak. I was indicted by grand jury by director grand jury Michelle Crowley because 73312 Michael Houlihan lied under oath to a grand jury when he stated I swung a hammer at him on my backboards 26 Sands from Drive in Penfield, New York. Criminal claim for perjury. Michael Houlihan, the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office, who will lie under oath again. District Attorney Brian P. Green, Michelle Crowley, Perry Douglas at District Attorney's Office. Criminal claim for perjury. 73312 Michael C. Houlihan, the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office. That 73312 Michael C. Houlihan, the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office, walked onto private property across from Renzi, 26 Sanders from Drive, Penfield, New York, Christopher Chichester. That Houlihan ran at Chichester approximately 1 a.m. with $85,000 better debt with the Sheriff's Office. Chichester ran away from Houlihan and better debt. I want to wear the identities. Chichester grabbed a hammer alongside of Renzi next to his bike used to fix the bike's tire. As Chichester places from the first 3 steps of the back porch, Houlihan grabbed his arm, the hammer in Chichester's hand is forced up. As Chichester ran across the back porch through his sliding glass door, and as Chichester never stopped running, his pop swinging the hammer at 73312 Michael Houlihan. As Chichester never stopped running, it's impossible to swing a hammer at 73312 Michael Houlihan. And why didn't you call me to the grand jury? Director of the grand jury at the time, Michelle Crowley. Why? Because you're corrupt. That's why. You don't know anything. You want to exist